Hello everyone, myself Dr. Bhargava R from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Nagarjuna College of Engineering and Technology. Today we'll be discussing about naming conventions of variables with respect to the subject called as Python. What are these naming conventions? How these naming conventions can be specified for variables we will be discussing. As I said, naming conventions of the variables. What do we mean by naming conventions? Specifying a name of a variable is called as a naming convention. How this name of a variable can be specified? To specify a name of any variable in a Python programming language or any programming language follows some rules. Similarly, here in the Python programming language also, we follow some rules for specifying names of a variable. Let us understand what are these rules which are used to specify the names of the variables. The name of a variable can contain letters, numbers, and underscore. What do we mean by this? It cannot contain any other special characters. For example, so I'll be writing an example here. So I'm declaring a variable name as student underscore name. I'll be assigning a value for it. I'll be assigning a value as Ram. So this is called as my variable name, and this is the value which I have assigned to it. Here you can observe the student name which I have declared or which I have defined as a variable is containing a letters, it is containing an underscore, and it can also contain a numbers. But if you are writing any name or a variable name as like this, which is containing a special characters including a dollar or at the rate symbol, any other special characters, which is treated as invalid because Python won't support for these kind of special characters as variable names. Variable names should contain letters, numbers, and underscore. It cannot have any other characters, including special characters. This is first rule. The second rule about the variable, which states is a variable name should start with letter or underscore. That means what I am trying to say here is, let us take an example so that you will clearly understand it. If I take an example of student underscore name, here it is starting with a letter, or you can start in this way also, underscore student name. This is also valid. But suppose if you are starting any of your variable in this way, one underscore student name, which is invalid according to the rule number 2. Why it is invalid? Because it is starting with a number, not with a letter or not with an underscore. So how the rule number 1 specified that it should have only letters, numbers, and underscore. It also says that it should not start with a number. It can either start with an underscore or it can start with a letter. That is what rule number 2 says. Then what about rule number 3? Rule number 3 specifies that your variable name should not have any spaces. For example, if you are writing any student name, for example, if you are writing any student name like this, or any variable name, student underscore name, it is combining two letters, or I can say it as two words by using an underscore. This is valid. Suppose if you include a student name in this fashion, student space name, and trying to assign a value for it, for example, a value Ram I'll be trying to assign for it. You just observe here, student is a separate word and name is a separate word. There is a space between it. When there is a space, your interpreter gets a confusion that whether Ram should be assigned to the variable name or the value Ram should be assigned to the variable student. It is treated as two different variables, not as a single variable. That's why the rule number 3 says you can't have any spaces in the variable names. That is what rule number 3 says. What about rule number 4? Rule number 4 clearly says that always your variables should be simple and descriptive. Variable name should be simple and descriptive. What do we mean by simple and descriptive? For example, instead of writing the student name like this, it is possible for me to write in this way also. S underscore T is equal to, I'll be assigning the name as Ram. I'm continuing with the same example so that you can easily understand. S underscore T is equal to Ram. This is simple and it is not descriptive. That is what we wanted to understand. If I see S underscore T, any programmer can't understand what this variable is trying to do. So for that sake, we need to have a variable name in such a way that it should be descriptive as well. Student underscore name. So this can be made as S underscore N or S underscore T. It is according to your wish. Okay, student underscore name will be equal to Ram. Now you can observe that this is a simple name and it is descriptive. So that if I see this, I can easily understand that this variable is holding the name of a student. So that is what the rule number 4 says. Then what about the rule number 5? Rule number 5 says that all your variable names are case sensitive. All your variable names are case sensitive. What do we mean by case sensitive? Case sensitive, we already know about it. For example, if I take a variable called as capital X, for which I am assigning a value 10, and if I take a small x or lowercase x and assign a value 10 to it, your uppercase x is not equal to the lowercase x. That is what case sensitivity says. For example, if you are declaring a variable y and assigning a value 10 for it, and if you take a lowercase y and assign a value 10 for it, this y is not same as this particular y. They are completely different. This is what case sensitivity says. Uppercase and lowercase letters are completely different. And apart from that, suppose if your variable is having more than one word, for example, here I have written student name. It is here, the one way of writing the student name is this. This is how I have written. And at some places I have used underscore. You can get a question that how it is different here and how it is different here. So when your variable is having more than one word, you can write it in various ways. So the first way is you can write your student name in this way. Make your first word as a lowercase, followed by immediate words, next words, the first letter as an uppercase. This is called as camel case. You can write it in camel case. The second way of representing the same is you can make even the first letter of the first word as an uppercase and even the continuation letters, the words as an uppercase. This says it is Pascal case. Similarly, there is another way to represent which I have used in my explanation. So instead of doing that, you can directly write it like this. Either use uppercase or lowercase, where you are separating each and every word with an underscore. This is another way, which is called a snake case. These are the three cases which are available to represent your variables in a different ways. Either use camel case, where your first letter of a first word will be lowercase and immediately you are attaching the next word with an uppercase. Further, if you are having multiple words, each and every word will be starting with an uppercase. Similarly, in the Pascal case, every word's first letter will be an uppercase. And the last method is snake case, where you will be having lowercase letters only for every word, but you are separating them by using the underscore. This is what camel case. This is about naming conventions of variables in Python, and these rules are mandatory when you are using your variable names in Python programming language. Thank you.